Okay, so welcome everyone. We're here today to share some of our learning from work that we both are involved with at the University of Warwick. I'm Jess Humphreys. I'm acting director of the Warwick International Higher Education Academy, but I also work in academic development, leading on the LDCU, supporting flexible online and blended learning. And I'm here today with my colleague.
Hello there, my name's Charlotte Stevens and I'm also at the University of Warwick and I'm part of the Academic Development Centre team. I specialise in digital education and have been co-leading the programme that we're talking about today.
Okay, so just to give you a brief overview and context of where we work and what we're up to, we're a large institution based in Coventry, although many think we're in Warwick, but we're actually in Coventry. We have spaces internationally across the globe, including in Venice, and very close alliance with Monash University as well. We work with colleagues from across all departments at Warwick. And recently we were awarded gold status for TEF last year. The Academic Development Centre, as we've said, is a space which both Charlotte and I work in. We're currently 15 colleagues in that space running programmes, talk programmes, including the postgraduate award we're talking about today, open programmes on various issues around education, supporting colleagues. We support professional service colleagues with responsibilities in teaching and learning from across the campus, academic colleagues too. So as I've mentioned, I lead the LDCU as well, and we run various forums, spaces for people to come together to discuss issues from broad education issues to technology enhanced active learning, to name a few. And we also host the Teaching Excellence Awards within that space too.
So now some thoughts. Here's a quote from Bill Gates, who we know is the co-founder of Microsoft, and he said this in 1997, but I think the advice still stands. Technology is just a tool. In terms of getting kids working together and motivating them, the teacher is most important. So we live in an increasingly more complex world, which is full of apps and devices and different tools, and so many of them that it's difficult for us to keep up. But it's not just about the technology, it's about how we use that technology that's important. And we hope that you'll gather from some of the projects we'll talk about today. Sometimes it's the simplest use of technology which can make all the difference. But in order to keep up with the changing landscape of teaching and learning, we need to update our skills because, as John Dewey said, if we teach today as we taught yesterday, we rob our children of tomorrow. Now, strangely, Jess and I have never found this quote, but apparently it appears in a book called Democracy in Education from 1916. I'll leave that there. But the essence of this quote is that we need to adapt the way we teach in line with how technology is changing. So how do we do this? And here's a quote from Heidi Hayes Jacobs, who is known for her work on curriculum mapping and design. And she says, teachers need to integrate technology seamlessly into the curriculum instead of viewing it as an add-on, an afterthought, or an event. For me, this is thinking about how we design learning experiences in tandem with technology. We are not using technology for its own sake. We are designing with technology in mind. And wouldn't it be great to get to a place where our students had that seamless experience that Jacobs alludes to? And finally, a quote from Advance HE. Technology enhanced learning is often used as a synonym for e-learning, but can also be used to refer to technology enhanced classrooms and learning with technology rather than just through technology. So thinking about how we use technology means that we need to consider the spaces in which we use it, where the teaching and learning happens. It's about how we integrate that technology into the learning experience, wherever that learning takes place.
So we're going to share some of our stories of how colleagues have been using technology enhanced learning through the programme, the Postgraduate Award in Technology Enhanced Learning. So this is a course that I've been involved with. I worked out earlier today for about 14 years as a student participant, as a tutor, and then as a course lead. And more recently working with Charlotte on this course too. The audience for this course is anyone who has a role within teaching and learning, supporting teaching and learning, delivering teaching and learning. So colleagues from professional services, colleagues from academic departments, and it's a 12-month master's level programme that leads to fellowship as well. So it's a unique in that respect too. Many colleagues come and they take on a practice-based project. It's research-led, and they work to develop their project within their own specific context. And I'll explain how we support them and the process they go through shortly. It's a real blended course. There's opportunities for synchronous and asynchronous engagement online and discussions in person. And the themes that we reflect upon include student experience, the role of the tutor, digital pedagogy, design for learning, just to name a few. The assessment that we use is a presentation where colleagues present where they're at with their project. They get feedback from their peers, feedback from us, and that feeds into a reflective account, which is just a reflection of their learning on the course that they submit afterwards. So here's a bit of a roadmap of what to expect for those colleagues that engage with us. We begin the course with a welcome, and we did this online, but we tend to try and do this more in person. The really important thing about the PGA TEL is it's a community of practice. It's just as important for colleagues to learn from one another and to support one another as is our roles there to lead them through this journey. The opportunity for colleagues to work together as they develop their own project is also embedded throughout the course. We have online resources, as I've mentioned. So this blended approach, we have specific sections that are released each month on Teams and Moodle, which colleagues can work through. They're actually accessed from the beginning. Anyone can access it, but we focus in on them at those specific points each month. We also follow a design process, which I'll talk a bit more about shortly as to how that works. But people come with an idea that we then support them to develop as they go through. As I've mentioned, the community of practice is really important. For some, it's their first experience of scholarship of teaching and learning. And so we support them through this, and to support one another as well. To feel that they're not alone with this is really, really important. And then the project itself, that is our destination. We want colleagues to design this project, implement it, evaluate it, but it's not the end. So we then enable spaces for colleagues through our forums to share their findings, share their projects. Colleagues then are often invited back to mentor future colleagues who may be taking on this project, this role, this PGA TEL, and more widely as well. And we continue those conversations. So it's lovely to hear how projects evolve and continue. But it's also amazing to hear how colleagues have taken the learning from this course and helped them to get promotion or to get new roles within different areas of the university or beyond the university too. So it's not the end when they leave the course. They very much continue to engage with us through other forums such as the LDCU. And I mentioned design being an important part of the course. I use design thinking approach. So this idea of embedding the learner experience right at the beginning to enable colleagues to think through a challenge and work together, although it's their own individual projects. But this idea of defining what it is that they're working on. It's really interesting to hear how colleagues come to us with an idea, and often that idea will change over time, the divergent, convergent nature, the iterative nature of this process as well. So action learning sets is really important in this process, as are the individual supervisions. But when we come together in action learning sets, we are able to share ideas, change ideas, evolve our thoughts. Just having that space for reflection is so important. The opportunity to prototype as well. The PGA TEL is a safe space. So you can fail, and that's not often you get that opportunity. And so some of the best projects we've had have been ones that haven't quite worked out, and the learning from that we've all had from that experience has been really invaluable. So the opportunity to evaluate, to test, to then go back and change things and do something different. And often the prototype is the end point, that they've done something, the project's about prototyping, and it goes on and evolves into something more concrete. Sometimes what has evolved has then changed over the years too. So now I'm going to hand back to Charlotte, who will reflect on the sort of things that people get up to.
So the projects completed on the PGA TEL course roughly divide into two categories. First of all, we see the development of resources. I've captured what these are here. For an example, we often see participants creating Moodle courses or materials for students and staff. We've had virtual site visits, creation of videos or games or online alternatives to hardware. Other projects focus on the use of different tools to support learning. For example, the use of Kahoot to increase online engagement, or the use of wikis to encourage collaboration. But what we've noticed is there is a shift in terms of the projects completed pre-pandemic to those completed during the pandemic and when there were still restrictions in place to where we are now. So before the pandemic, projects broadly related to the themes of development, enhancement and support. So we saw new Moodle courses and resources, for example, an online induction course for arts students, an online suite of study skills resources for learners accessing higher education for the first time. But other projects were focused more on enhancement, for example, the creation of templates to encourage consistency across Moodle courses that already existed, or templates to assist with developing screencasts. And other projects were focused on providing additional support, such as the production of videos, sharing advice and guidance, and the use of social media to encourage interaction amongst research students. And I've added a quote from Laurelard here. There is a sense of knowing what we want from technology in these projects, that we're engaging with technology because we have a sense of purpose. And then during the pandemic, and when the restrictions were still in place, there was this shift in thinking, a focus more on the here and now, less on what to teach or how to support, or what support to provide, but more on how to do it. We see projects broadly related to the themes of adaptation, substitution, and engagement. We see online handbooks and self-graded quizzes, asynchronous spaces for self-learning, virtual site visits, the use of podcasts and recorded lectures, all as substitutes for face-to-face experiences. And there are also projects which are focused on ways to engage students, experiments using audio and video feedback for assignments, or the use of Padlet for career planning. This was a time when, as the quote here states, the classroom was an evolving constant. And then post-pandemic, when we're very much working in a blended learning space, the focus of the projects has shifted again. We see this return to enhancement, but it's very much in a post-pandemic context. For example, the use of Lightboard to create more interactive webinars, developing functionality in Teams, and using augmented reality to develop simulations. And there is a greater focus on pedagogy. For example, how we might use tools like Vvox to support teaching of difficult subjects online. Projects have always been student-centred, but even more so now, and more holistic in their approach, such as using Miro as a community building tool, Padlet to increase online engagement, the development of bite-sized learning objects as a way to reduce cognitive load. What these and other projects demonstrate is the recognition that pedagogy needs to change, and it's how we use the technology to make that change happen. Hence the quote here from Beetham and Sharp. But it's important to note that wherever we are on this journey, what links the projects together is innovation, the desire to develop something new and different in a learning experience through the use of technology. And it's really rewarding to see how participants with very different skill sets and capabilities progress and develop innovative projects to support the learning experience. So finally, some benefits. and challenges of this course. This is a really inclusive course. It attracts participants from across the university, whoever is supporting learning. They don't necessarily have to be teaching. It is a group approach, and that is one of the benefits. It also enables participants to work through methodically from start to completion of the project with support along the way. And there's this sense of being able to play, which is so important, and experiment with different technologies. Jess talked earlier about how some projects start in a very ambitious place, but that's part of it. It's part of going there to come back and harness where you're going. And it's been good to see how participants link theory to practice, and that's encouraged them to then think about how they teach and support learning in a different way. And the opportunity to reflect on practice is always a bonus, and it's something we never do much of. And having that space to do that and then to develop and get feedback from other people is key to this course.
But with all the benefits, there are challenges as well. And so things that we consider to be challenges, more or less, it's around time. It's the practical considerations, the fact that colleagues are working, and this is alongside their day job. So this competing priorities often comes up. How we ensure that sessions start and work at a time that suits them is not always possible. So there are some challenges there. The student voices, as Charlotte said, has become much more embedded in some of these projects. It's always been there, but perhaps more so post-pandemic. But sometimes that's caused some challenges in how we harness that voice, how we embed it, how it is listened to, how we have space for students to engage with some of these projects. Often, many of our colleagues are working with their colleagues, so it's not always, the learner voice is very, very diverse as well. And evaluation can be limited. So more often than not, people can go, let's do a survey. And so we have built that into the programme as well, how we can support people in thinking about the variety of different ways we can gather feedback. But again, this our old friend time can cause real issues for this too. So it can be a lot of things going on, and they end up doing a survey. So that's another challenge that we have encountered along the way.
And I think that's it. And we're at time. We've just put some references here. I'm assuming that the slides will be shared. But we'd be happy to take any questions. And thank you very much for your time.